So with an important weekly and monthly candle close coming up on the markets this weekend, we're going to take a look at the next potential moves for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and as well as what that means for altcoins, including some potential profitable trade setups on the higher timeframes. So let's get into it. So let's start where we always do then, with Bitcoin itself, and then we'll go into the alt season indicators and of course the altcoin trades as well. So starting with Bitcoin, not going to spend a lot of time on this because there's not really too much to talk about on the monthly time frame. Obviously, we've had an incredible monthly candle which opened at around 70k, and we are now at 96.8, or basically 97k. We touched 99k, haven't quite hit 100k yet. I think that when we do cross 100k, then we are probably going to make a very quick move up into the 110s and maybe even 120 very quickly. Of course, not guaranteed, not financial advice, that's just my personal opinion. However, we could chop around just under 100k for a little while longer. Maybe we don't hit 100k until we get that potential Santa rally later in December. But if we are going to chop around 90 to 100k or just below, then I think that is very good news for altcoins. I think potentially, as I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute, once we break 100k, there may be a bit of a move in the Bitcoin dominance, and the air might get sucked out of altcoins and back into Bitcoin. But we'll have to wait and see. In terms of analysis, as I say, on the monthly chart, it's blue sky breakouts on Bitcoin, not too much to talk about, looks very good indeed. And on the weekly, in terms of a pullback, we had a very small pullback this week, not really much. We talked about in a previous video potentially coming down to 80k, which would have been about a 20% pullback, of course, from the top. And BTC likes to have 30% pullbacks in bull market, so it wasn't out of the question. But as you can see, only hit 90k, or not even 90k, it was like 90.9k, and then zip back up. In terms of fair value gaps, we have now created another weekly fair value gap, the top of which being 89.2 k and the bottom of it being 81.5. So we may not see a pullback as deep as 80k, but it is certainly still on the cards. In terms of the daily time frame as well, these are the closest daily fair value gaps we've got. So we've got one down here about 82.7 down to 81.4, and then one that lines up with the weekly fair value gap at around 80k. So again, that's what we talked about last week, a potential pullback to 80k. Doesn't look like that's going to happen at the moment, of course, unless we maybe make some sort of double top here around 98, 99, and then pull back. Maybe at the beginning of the new month, maybe we put in a wick for December somewhere down here, and then reclaim the monthly open and go bullish again. But in terms of analysis, there's not really too much, as I say, to talk about. In terms of potential areas for a long, there's a retest of the moving average 21 down at 90.5k, or maybe the bottom of this consolidation range down here at around 87k. So something to keep an eye on. Of course, if we break the current highs, then we are into 100k, and then I think things get very bullish very quickly. In terms of Ethereum, on the monthly, not too much to talk about. We have obviously made a fantastic monthly candle similar to Bitcoin. If we take a look left, we have got a bit of resistance here up around 3.6 to around 3.8k on the monthly time frame. However, I think the weekly time frame is more relevant. If we take a look, we are currently in this range. We look like we're going to get a close above the mid-range here at 3.4k, heading up to the top of the range at around 3.9k. If we look left though, there is a lot of resistance here between 3.9k and 4k, not only locally as in March and May of this year, but if we take a look left back in May of 2021 and August of 2021 as well, tops there, and it was heavy support as well throughout November and December of 2021. So that 3.94k is going to be a heavy resistance area, especially when you consider the speed at which we've moved up in the past 3-4 weeks, and however long it takes to get there. If it's only another week or so, then it would have been a very fast move up. Would not be surprised to see a pullback into maybe the weekly mid-range, or maybe this previous high from July of 2024 at 3.5k. In terms of the daily time frame, again, not too much to talk about on Ethereum. Maybe a potential pullback to this previous resistance on the weekly mid-range at 3.4k. So see if there's a daily fair value gap down on the moving average 21 here at around 3,260, which is the bottom of this small consolidation area on the daily time frame as well. So that looks pretty good. But also, that being said, looking left, this is a nice area of consolidation as well at 3.5k. So Ethereum looking very strong, making higher highs and higher lows. I think it's not going to be long until we hit that 4k mark, and then if we get a weekly candle close above 3.9k, then it's straight to all-time highs in my opinion. And then once we break 5k, then it's blue sky breakouts, and just hold on tight. In terms of the alt season indexes, let's take a quick look, because there has been a fair bit of movement over the past week since we made the last video. So if we take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the monthly time frame, of course, this shows you how much capital is in Bitcoin compared to the rest of the market. And as you can see, as we've talked about in previous videos, the signal for the alt season in previous cycles was the break of the previous all-time high, and as you can see, this is starting to reign true once again. So we had that all-time high break, of course, last month, and now this month you can see Bitcoin dominance hit 60% or 61.5%, and is now looking like a bit of a bearish candle. However, I would like to see a monthly candle close below 57% before I get too excited. Of course, we're probably not going to get that over the next day or so unless we see some real big movement, but this is definitely a start on the weekly time frame as well, starting to potentially lose the weekly moving average 21, which, if you take a look, we have not lost since we reclaimed it back on the 9th of Jan 2023, apart from this very small deviation here back in Jan 2024. So no weekly candle closes bar these two here since January 2023. So it would be very significant if we could get a weekly candle close below the weekly moving average 21 and this sort of 57% area on Bitcoin dominance. So something to watch out for as well. On the total 3 BTC, this is looking quite positive. We are looking like we're going to get a monthly candle close back above this 48% area, which is a deviation of this big level of support, which is failing to hold as resistance. So that looks good. Bitcoin dominance rolling over, and ETH BTC, whilst it looks like we have had a rejection off of this previous level of support at 0.04, there is a potential that this has marked the bottom on ETH BTC in terms of a capitulation, especially with the sentiment surrounding Ethereum and altcoins as well. And Ethereum has, as you can see, performed pretty well over the past, if we take a look at the past 2 weeks. So be really positive if we could get back above 0.04, back above that monthly level of resistance and above the weekly moving average 21, then I think it would be time to really start getting excited about a potential alt season. Now, the only trouble we've got is, the only caveat with Bitcoin dominance is, before, where we've broken all-time highs, that's been the most significant sort of price point in Bitcoin. However, this cycle we've got the problem of 100k. So when Bitcoin breaks 100k, there is a chance that that is going to be treated pretty similar to like an all-time high break, and we may see a bit of a surge in Bitcoin dominance, maybe one more spike while Bitcoin goes on a solo run to, as I say, maybe 110, 120, and then the money rotates back into altcoins. So something to be wary of. Of course, that may not happen. Alts may run with Bitcoin, similar to how they did when we broke previous all-time highs, like back in December and January, December 2020 and January 2021. So probably best to be somewhat positioned in altcoins, but definitely have some Bitcoin spare, ready to buy any big dips on the alt BTC pairs. Now, looking at some alt USDT pairs that look very good for potential longs going into next week. So in terms of Link, a bit of a monthly resistance here, about $18.38. However, if we go down to the weekly time frame, I think this is a more significant level of resistance here on the weekly. So I think a weekly candle close above $18 would be enough for me. Look at this real strong resistance, deviation of the range high, resistance back here as well in May and June 2024 of this year. So I think a weekly candle close above here. We've already tried to get above last week, trying to get above it this week. I think a weekly candle close above $18, break out of this range, and Link could fly. In terms of some TPs, so you've got this local high here from back in March, which would be 25%, and then further up you've got these highs from back here in January 2022, which would be a 58% move just on spot. So that's a potential trade on Link. Breaking out, Injective as well, breaking out of this weekly, you could call that a range high here at $28.27. You can see bouncing around here and this weekly level of $14.90, holding the weekly moving average 21, and looks like we're breaking out of this weekly level. So in terms of a return back to the highs, if you were to enter here, you're looking at an 80% return, getting back to $52.74. So I think that is a potential trade as well. In terms of BNB, this looks like it's coiling for a breakout. If you look at the monthly, you can see we've cleared these previous highs, big level of resistance. It actually looks very similar to Bitcoin, as you can see, where it was trying to break above the previous all-time highs of 69.70k. So I think this is about to pop to new all-time highs. If we go down to the weekly as well, we've been coiling up, you can see, riding above the weekly moving average 21, trying to break this weekly range high at $662. We even came down, had a few retests of this weekly support level at $611. So I think any weekly candle close above $660, I think this is going to shoot to new all-time highs, and who knows, could easily hit $1,000. So an entry from here up to $1,000, you're looking at about a 50% return, which doesn't look too bad at all. And then finally, Solana tagged all-time highs, or just breached new all-time highs the other day, as you see, about $260 on the monthly, highest monthly candle close so far, as long as, of course, it doesn't drop below $200, which I don't think it's going to do. In terms of the weekly time frame, there is a potential we may well come back for a slightly deeper retrace down at $205. If you get that, I think that is an absolute steal. I think that's a really good entry for a long, but I don't think we pull back that far. However, if we get any sort of candle close on the weekly time frame, or maybe even the daily time frame, above $260, you can see that was big resistance on the daily time frame last week. We actually rejected it, came down, tagged the moving average 21, and we're starting to make our way back up again. I think any daily or weekly candle close above the $260 mark of previous all-time highs, then that is going to absolutely fly. And who knows, that could quite easily be a 2x up to $500. So something to keep an eye on. If trade setups, head to our website at learningcrypto.co.uk and check out our Traders Lounge. We have Black Friday offers on at the moment, 50% off of regular premium, 70% off of the Traders Lounge. They are not on for much longer, so go ahead, check that out on our X page and our website, as you can see, learningcrypto.co.uk. Jump into the free Discord as well, and we look forward to seeing you in there. So drop in the comments below when you think we're going to hit 100k, when do you think alt season is going to start, and what bags have you got packed ready for it. So have a good weekend, and I'll catch you in the next video.